Yo, what's good, YouTube, man? It's Gary with another Fan TV back at another video. Like the content in this video, go smash that like button at the content of this channel. Go and subscribe, man. Look, so we are 24 hours out from the NFL draft, so I think it's only fitting and appropriate that we do a Ravens, draft preview, right? Who the Ravens looking at, what could happen during the draft, the Ravens needs. So yeah, let's look at it through that lens, right? So I think the Ravens have some pretty clear needs right across the team. I'll just go with tier one and tier two. So tier one needs, we're going to go with O-line, edge, or interior defensive line. Pretty much just pass rush in general. If you want to mix it all into one group, you can do that. So that's at tier one. And then at the bottom of that tier one group, I will put safety, right? So then tier two needs cornerback, wide receiver, right? Now, while I classify into these sections, we won't go too far into it, but O-line, I think the Ravens need to add competition, especially at the guard spot. I think rolling into the season where it's just Falele and Voorhees automatic starters, I think that's a mistake, right? Make those guys earn it. I like Voorhees. Hey, Falele had up and down moments. He had his games where he was good. He had his games where he struggled, right? We know this. Neither one of those guys should be automatic set in and forget it starters. They should have to earn that right? So when the Ravens draft somebody at 27, say as a guard, say as Tyler Booker, say as Gray Zabel, those guys should have the right to come in and compete for that starting job. And look, and the guys that are on this team win, your Voorhees, your Falele, if they win and beat out the rookie, great. They deserved it. Perfect. But let us have a competition. Okay. So edge and interior defensive lineman, but most likely we're talking about always pass rushers in general. Listen, you can show me all the numbers about how the Ravens were high in sack numbers and this and that. I don't care. All right. The Ravens lack a consistent pass rusher who gets after the quarterback without the assist of stunts and games and stuff like that, right? That's just the cold hard fact of it, right? The Ravens lack a pass rusher that teams have to look at and say, okay, we want to take this guy out the game, right? The closest guy you could say to that is Justin Madubuike. Teams did a lot last year. They double teamed him. He still had a decent season, right? But my personal opinion, the Ravens need more guys, right? Listen, what Adafi Owe did, I'm probably one of the bigger Adafi Owe fans in the Ravens fan base. I like what he did last season, right? He needs more people around him. Kyle Van Noy is a year older, right? We love what Kyle Van Noy did last year. Can you expect that again from him? I believe that's his first double-digit sack season in his career. Are we going to bank on that happening again, or was it just a good season, right? And even though the Ravens had two guys with double-digit sacks, you still felt the Ravens needing pass rush, right? So that's why it's simple as that. That's a tier one need. It's a quarterback league. It's a passing league. Well, even though the run game is kind of back, honestly, it's been back for the last couple of years. But still, getting after the quarterback, affecting the quarterback is one of the quickest ways that you can elevate your team, become, get over that hump and get to that Super Bowl, right? Okay. Then the last one we talked about is safety. Okay. So safety, bottom of the tier one need is because, listen, I like Darius Washington. Darius Washington just signed his restricted free agent tender, so he's going to be back with the Ravens for at least next season, right? That's good news. Kyle Hamilton is obviously one of the better players in the league. When Kyle Hamilton gets paid, he will be paid like the top safety in the NFL. He probably will be paid as the top safety in the NFL. Okay. The reason that safety is a need is because the Ravens too much last year had to put Kyle Hamilton back in the deep center of the field, say, hey, listen, we need some stability back here. We need somebody that's just not going to mess it up. And Kyle, you're that guy, right? Marcus Williams couldn't be depended on anymore. Eddie Jackson was bad, just flat out, right? So Darius Washington came in, stabilized the defense, but Kyle Hamilton's role had to change, right? The Ravens need a true free safety that could play the deep middle of the field, okay? And that's why a guy like Malachi Starks is very, very high on my list for the guys the Ravens to pick. Okay. It's not the very, very first need. I would rather the Ravens go interior O-line, interior defensive line, edge, and then safety. But if they're going to pick a safety, I would rather be Malachi Starks, right? He shows the ball skills, the range, the athleticism to go sideline to sideline and be that kind of safety, right? Also, when you have a safety that has a contrasting style to Kyle Hamilton, it kind of frees Kyle Hamilton up, right, a little bit. So Hamilton could be more of that Swiss Army knife than what than he was last year, right? When we saw that breakout season from Kyle Hamilton, it's because he was able to do so many things, right? And he had to be a little bit more limited because he had to stabilize the defense, and he did that. But that's not what his best role is. Okay. All right. And then cornerback. Ravens signed Chidobe Awuzie. Like these tier two needs. Ravens signed Chidobe Awuzie. They still need some more help at corner. And so we'll see. We'll see what happens there. I wouldn't take a corner in the first round, but second round, third round, I can see that. Okay, and then wide receiver, right? I'm seeing mock drafts. The Ravens taking Lethal Burden at 27. I'm just not a fan of it, right? I'm not saying Luther Burden can't be a good player, won't be a good player. To me, round one wide receiver is not really on top of the Ravens list. Unless you're getting Tedero McMillan from Arizona. That's the only wide receiver I'm taking in the first round because he offers something truly different from what the Ravens have on the roster. Okay. Luther Burden to me is a big slot, Deebo Samuel kind of player, right? Not a bad player, good player. But if you're going to have Zay working the slot, if you're going to have DeAndre Hopkins on the team, listen, the Ravens don't have a lot of wide receivers under contract after this season, so I understand from that perspective. But you can get a good wide receiver, in my opinion, second and third round, right? You kind of already set in what you have here. If you're drafting Luther Burden at 27, the wide receiver, to me, you're passing over players that are probably better in the draft and are going to help the team. That's just my opinion on that. People probably disagree with that. All right, but so that's the needs, right? Those are some of the players. Now, who would I like to see the Ravens draft on tomorrow night? Let's start there. So Derek Harmon, interior defensive lineman, Oregon, disruptive, right? Pushes the pocket, right? So for a quarterback, sometimes quarterbacks prefer the edge pressure, right? Because they can step up and they can get around it like that way, right? But when you push the pocket from the center, from that guard area, quarterback usually has nowhere to go unless you're Lamar Jackson or some kind of super freak athlete like that, right? So that to me is why Derek Harmon is so important, right? So now if you have a interior defensive line group of Derek Harmon, Justin Madubuike, Travis Jones, you're getting after the quarterback right through the middle of the pocket, right? You're going to make him uncomfortable. That's beautiful, right? So Tyler Booker, Gray Zabel, talked about them, or I mentioned their name, I should say. But Tyler Booker, physical, strong, and just a really, really nasty kind of player, right? It was him that said that it's legal assault out there, and his goal is to make somebody take away the love of the game from the person he's going against. That's my kind of offensive lineman all day, right? And then I look at Gray Zabel, right? Small school guy, but he passed all the combine, the physicals, all that with flying colors, had good tape, showed out at the Senior Bowl, all of that kind of things, right? As a guy that he could play all five positions, but really what he's going to be is interior, right? So guard, center. He gives the Ravens that versatility that they lost to Patrick McCarry. And no, I'm not saying draft him in the first round to replace Patrick McCarry. No. But what I'm saying is that he's an elite talent that can play all five positions, but most likely he's going to be in those guard, and then, say Linderbaum gets hurt, he can play center, right? So he's a guy to me that can compete right away from day one at any of the guard spots. And then also, how about the Ravens in a pinch if, Linderbaum gets hurt for whatever reason, right? So to me, that's why he's very, very valuable. Okay. And then edge, edge guys I like Boston College. I like Donovan Ezeraku, right? It's somebody I've talked about before in the past. A lot of moves, 16 and a half sacks, great production, high character, high motor. I've been listening to some of these podcasts, and they said that there's questions about his power. But for me, if you get a guy that has a pass rush plan, right, that has the production, and that is a good athlete, right, you put that guy with all those tools, and you put him with Chuck Smith, who to me has transformed Adafio's pass rush plan, really helped some of the other guys on this team pass rush plan. You put a guy who already has tools with a guy that's going to get him even better. I like that pick, right? So there's also other edge prospects. If Mike Green was to fall, I don't think he is, but if Mike Green was to fall, but I don't think the Ravens are going to take him. Character stuff, red flags, whatever you want to say. I don't think the Ravens are going to take him, but there are other edges that I like. But if you want actually just one guy that I say, okay, yeah, that's my guy. It'd be the Boston College edge, Donovan Ezeraku, right? That's my guy. Okay. So those are some names that I'm looking at in the draft, right? So I'll give you a couple of names there. Guys that I like to see the Ravens target. I guess one safety we'll talk about. I just already talked about Malachi Starks, but I like his athleticism, like the ball skills. He goes up and gets the football, right? The Ravens need somebody in the back end that's going to go up and get the football, right? The Ravens need more interceptions. The Ravens need more turnovers. So they need somebody with that kind of instinct. Like Malachi Starks can get that. If they don't do Malachi Starks in the first round, In the second round, I got a guy like Xavier Watts from Notre Dame, another ball hawking safety who goes after it and gets the football, right? So if the Ravens are going to draft a safety, which I believe they will at some point in this draft, be it somebody that has the instincts to go and get the ball, right? That's my only ask, right? And those two guys at the top of the list, right? Xavier Watts and Malachi Starks. Okay. Now, things that could happen during the draft, right? Draft day trades. Okay, that's something that's a topic. Mark Andrews could be traded. I mean, my stance clear on this before. I'm not trading Mark Andrews for a fourth round pick. If it's a third round pick, I do it. Fourth round, I'm not doing it, right? To me, I want the Ravens to get as many top 100 picks as possible. If Mark Andrews can help the Ravens get in the top 100 pick, I'm all for it. Trade on way, right? But I'm not trading them for a fourth, fifth round pick. To me, that's almost negative value. That's just my opinion on it, right? But Mark Andrews could be traded, right? Last year, the deal turning 30, this and that. That really has nothing to do with the drop in Buffalo, right? That's fresh in people's mind. It really has nothing to do with that. It's just circumstances on the roster, right? Like I said, turning 30, last year the contract, and Isaiah Likely is an emerging young tight end, right? You know, those are the facts, right? So, yes, he is a trade target, okay? Trade candidate, I should say. Somebody else for that from another team that I saw linked to the Ravens, right? The New York Giants are supposedly putting Kayvon Thibodeau's name out there, right? So Kayvon Thibodeau was a top 5 draft pick for the New York Giants a couple years ago. He's been okay to good. Hasn't been great. Hasn't been the guy that they thought they were getting, right? His name's been floated out there, and I've seen the Ravens connected to that. That'd be interesting, right? Now, what the Ravens have to give up to get Kayvon Thibodeau, I'm not sure. But that would be interesting, right? I think the pipe dreams of Micah Parsons and stuff like that is not happening. I don't see Dallas trading him. I don't see the Ravens, say if he was available, I don't see the Ravens doing what it takes to get a guy like that. So we can throw that dream away. Okay. So Jair Alexander might be traded during the draft. I talked about him a lot during this process as well. I would give up a fourth, fifth round, maybe not a fourth pick, but maybe like a fifth round pick. I mean, Jair Alexander's an older player, has some injury stuff. So fifth round pick for Jair Alexander, sign me up. I'll do that. Right. So he's another draft day name that come to the Ravens. That's out there on the block. We'll see what happens, right? So listen, that's kind of my my overview of it, right? Just the needs of the team, why they need it, some people that I like in the draft, and some draft day trades that could happen, right? Now the Ravens are going to do what the Ravens do. They're going to take the best player available. They may even trade back if four or five guys the Ravens like are on the board. The Ravens may trade back and collect more picks, right? We know the Ravens style, right? So that's not out of the realm of possibility. The only thing I ask the Ravens do is that you have 11 draft picks. Do not use all 11 because all 11 won't make this team for one. And two, 4 of those picks, I believe, are in the 6th round. Do not draft 4 6th round players. All right. The Ravens do that. The Ravens don't use all 11 picks. They don't draft 4 6th round players. They will probably come out here with a successful draft that I will feel good about, right? This draft doesn't have a lot of top end heavy starters, or I say heavy stars, but they have a lot of starters in here, right? So guys is going to help the Ravens out tremendously. That's what I believe, right? So give me your thoughts in the comments about the draft. Give me your thoughts about who you want to see the Ravens draft at 27, and we'll go from there, man. But it's Gabriel, just another Fan TV. I'm out.